The first time I saw Emma standing alone in that crowded restaurant, she was crying so quietly that nobody noticed. Everyone else was laughing. Her parents were at the table beside her, surrounded by relatives, and the man she had been engaged to was standing across from her with a look I still remember. He took off the engagement ring, placed it on the table, and said, "I'm sorry, Emma. I can't marry someone like you." The restaurant went silent for a moment. Then her mother whispered something in her ear. Emma looked down. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply picked up her purse and walked outside. I followed her. Not because I knew her. I barely knew her at all. I followed because there was something about the way she walked through that door that made me feel like I had just watched someone's entire life collapse in front of me. 5 years later, the same people who watched her get rejected that night would stand in front of her and struggle to recognize the woman she had become. But what they never knew was that the night she walked out of that restaurant, she made a promise to herself, and somehow I became part of it. My name is Daniel, and at the time, I was working as an assistant manager at a small hotel owned by my uncle. I wasn't rich. I wasn't particularly successful. I was just trying to pay my bills and help my younger sister finish college. Emma, on the other hand, came from a wealthy family. At least, that's what everyone thought. Her father owned a construction company. Her mother was active in local charity circles, and her older sister had married a successful businessman. Emma was the quiet one, the overlooked one, the daughter people compared to everyone else. When I found her outside that restaurant, she was sitting on a bench with her hands shaking. I approached slowly. "Are you okay?" She wiped her face and laughed bitterly. "Does it look like I'm okay?" I didn't know what to say, so I sat beside her. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "Everyone thinks I'm difficult to love." That sentence stayed with me. I looked at her and said, "Maybe everyone is wrong." She turned toward me. It was the first time she really looked at me. "You don't even know me. I know enough to know you shouldn't have to beg someone to stay." She smiled faintly. It wasn't a happy smile, but it was the first smile I'd seen on her face that night. We exchanged numbers. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. We started talking. At first it was only coffee, then dinner, then long walks after work. Emma slowly told me about her family. She had grown up believing that love was something she had to earn. Her father constantly compared her to her older sister. Her mother criticized everything from her clothes to her career choices. And the man who rejected her at the restaurant, Ryan, had spent 3 years convincing her that he was the only person who could tolerate her. "I thought he was my last chance," she admitted one evening. I asked, "Why?" "Because everyone else kept telling me the same thing." "What thing?" "That nobody would choose me." I looked at her for a long moment. "I would." She stared at me. I hadn't planned to say it, but I meant it. 6 months later, I proposed. There was no expensive ring, no ballroom, no photographer, just the two of us standing beside a lake on a cold Sunday morning. Emma cried when she said yes, but her family didn't celebrate. Her father called me a gold digger. Her mother told Emma she was throwing her life away. Her sister laughed and said, "You're marrying a hotel employee?" Even Emma's friends warned her. They said I wasn't ambitious enough. They said she was settling. They said we'd never last. Emma looked at all of them and quietly said, "For the first time in my life, I'm choosing someone because I love him, not because everyone else approves." We got married 3 months later. Only 19 people attended. Her parents came, but they barely spoke to us. Her sister didn't come at all. That first year was difficult. We rented a tiny apartment above a bakery. Sometimes I worked 14-hour shifts. Emma found work designing interiors for small businesses. Money was tight. There were nights when dinner was just soup and bread, but somehow those were some of the happiest nights of my life. We learned how to laugh when things went wrong. We learned how to apologize. We learned that marriage wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone who stayed when life wasn't perfect. Then, 2 years into our marriage, Emma received a phone call from her father. His construction company was in trouble. He needed help. Emma wanted to go. I asked her if she trusted him. She hesitated. "Not completely." "Then why go?" "Because he's still my father." She spent the next 6 months working with his company, rebuilding relationships with clients and reorganizing the business. She discovered something nobody expected. She was good at it, very good. But while she was helping her father, she found financial records that didn't make sense. Millions of dollars had been moved through a separate company. The company was registered under her older sister's husband's name. Emma confronted her father. He refused to talk. Then her sister called. "You need to stop digging." Emma asked why. Her sister said something that changed everything. Because you're going to find out why Dad never wanted you involved in the business. The next morning, Emma found an old envelope in her father's office. Inside was a photograph of her as a little girl. On the back, someone had written a date, and underneath it were 6 words: she was supposed to inherit everything. Emma couldn't understand. Until she found the second document, her grandfather's original will. Years earlier, before his death, he had intended to leave controlling ownership of the family company to Emma. Not her sister, Emma. But her father had hidden the document after her grandfather died. Her sister's husband had discovered the truth and had been quietly moving company money for years, preparing to take control. Emma was devastated, not because of the money, because her own father had chosen to let everyone believe she was worthless. She confronted him. He finally admitted the truth. "I thought you were too soft," he said. Emma's voice trembled. "So you destroyed my confidence so I would never realize what I was capable of." Her father looked away. "I thought I was protecting the family." "No," she said. "You were protecting your favorite child." That night, Emma came home and sat on the kitchen floor. I sat beside her. She leaned against my shoulder. "I spent my whole life believing there was something wrong with me." I kissed her forehead. "There never was. The next year changed everything." Emma legally challenged the hidden documents and became involved in rebuilding the company. She refused to destroy her family. Instead, she removed the people who had misused the business and brought in independent management. She also started a foundation helping young women who had been pushed aside by their families. By the 5th year of our marriage, she had become a respected businesswoman. But she never became arrogant. She still bought groceries herself. She still called her grandmother every Sunday. She still kept the first cheap wedding ring I had given her. Then came the family anniversary celebration. Everyone was invited. Her parents, her sister, Ryan, the same man who had rejected her 5 years earlier. I remember watching him enter the room. He froze when he saw Emma. She was standing beside me in a simple black dress, speaking calmly with several business partners. Ryan stared at her for several seconds. Then he walked over. "Emma?" She smiled politely. "Hello, Ryan." He looked at me, then back at her. "I heard about your company. I hope you heard good things." "I did." He swallowed. "You look different." Emma smiled. "I am different." He tried to laugh. "I made a mistake 5 years ago." She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "I was young. I didn't know what I wanted." Emma looked at him quietly. "You knew exactly what you wanted." Ryan lowered his eyes. "You wanted someone everyone else approved of." His face turned red. "I thought she would humiliate him." She didn't. She simply said, "And that's why you weren't the right person for me." Then she walked away. Her mother approached us afterward. She was crying. "I was wrong," she whispered. Emma looked at her for a long time. "I know." Her mother reached for her hand. Emma let her. But she didn't pretend the past hadn't happened. That was the lesson I learned from watching my wife change. Success didn't make her powerful. Money didn't make her powerful. Making everyone who rejected her regret it wasn't what made her powerful either. It was the fact that she stopped needing their approval. Later that night, we stood outside the venue together. Emma looked at me and laughed. "Do you remember what you told me that night outside the restaurant?" I smiled. "That everyone was wrong about you?" She nodded. "You were the first person who saw me before I saw myself." I took her hand. "No," I said. "You were always that woman. I just happened to be there when you finally started becoming her." She leaned against me. Behind us, the lights of the celebration were still shining through the windows. Inside were people who had once rejected her. Outside was the woman they never believed she could become. And as we walked home together, Emma squeezed my hand and said something I'll never forget. "I'm glad they rejected me." I looked at her. She smiled. "Because if they hadn't, I might never have learned that I was worth choosing." And that was when I realized something. Sometimes the people who walk away from you aren't taking your future with them. Sometimes they're making room for it.